Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. We're going to be taking a look at some more early access, this time jumping in with MALUS, Darkblade, and the Dark Elves. So let's get to it here. MALUS himself, of course, as you guys have probably seen by now, has this Sar Ken ability where he can transform himself into a demon. It does kill this unit model and replace it with another. In the meantime, he's also got a couple abilities here that come free. The Blood Prince gives him tons of extra AP and weapon damage, and some damage resistance. Does cause damage to himself, though, as does the Demon Curse, which is an AoE melee defense and leadership. Keep in mind, though, with the Warp Sword of Cain, he does regenerate health in melee and gets a bit of extra damage resistance as well. As for the rest here, let's go ahead and take a look. We've got a few of these Scourge Runner Chariots, so I'm quickly becoming a huge fan of these guys. They've got long-range, anti-large AP missiles. You can see 150 range here is quite significant. They're kind of like war wagons, but actually good because they're decent chariots with anti-infantry and a good charge bonus of 50. 80 armor as well, not too bad. Coming in at 950, very decent price. We've got a Sorceress Lore of Beasts. Some Dark Riders here are going to be coming for a quick hit-and-run charge. Bloodrack Medusa, this is the Regiment of Renown here. Of course, the hybrid missile melee monster has this ability here as a Regiment of Renown. The Whale of Malice has 2 charges for an AoE damage. It's more or less like Flock of Doom. We'll take a look at the damage scaling later, but just got some Dread Spears to round things out. A Bolt Thrower here in the back. And, yeah, just some Dark Riders for the rest. As for HDS, my opponent here, he's got some Empire, led by Marcus Wolfhart. Got a heavy contingent of Vanguard ranged units over here. Huntsman, Free Company, going to be pushing up, getting them on my artillery. The Knights over here, though, are my primary concern right now. We've got 2 units of Empire Knights. Spearmen here getting wrecked on by MALUS, and these Dark Riders are going to pull away here. We're going to start to fill in with some of these infantry. But you can see here the bolts coming in from those Scourge Runner Chariots do a pretty significant amount of damage. And of course, we can run the Chariots in here as well, just to act as mass blockers, which we're going to do. Go ahead and summon a Manticore. You can see I'm bringing up Spears as well for support. We've got this Bloodrack Medusa in here, also being able to provide some missile attacks as well. Her missile attacks do some pretty good damage. They're not the most single target, but you can see the missiles travel very fast. That's one of the main benefits of them. It's very hard to dodge the missiles because they travel so fast. You can see here, though, with the Manticore coming down, the countercharge from the Dark Riders. Dark Riders don't have the best stats, but 40 charge bonus is not too bad. So in a countercharge situation or a rear charge, they can do some pretty decent work. We're able to get a big terror out here and break a bunch of, especially these Empire Knights, and just completely shatter them, which is great value. Keep in mind, though, I just traded my Bolt Thrower and some Dread Spears, and there's some more Dark Riders and other units over here getting charged on by some Demigryph Knights here. Yeah, you can see these Dread Spears are just in the wrong neighborhood entirely. That's totally fine. They're going to be sacrificed to Cain and everything. Get that effect rolling up soon. You can see we're on the Ogam Shard map, definitely one of my favorites. And yeah, my opponent's also got the Black Lions here as well, so we're going to be using my Missile Chariots to kind of go after his Missile Chariots here. I mean, obviously the anti-large AP, while the Hellblaster of the Black Lions will do more burst. I mean, you can definitely do some consistent DPS here, and I believe the Scourge Runner Chariot does actually have poison on its missiles as well, so another kind of Regiment of Renown effect there. This is the Ravagers of Rekarth. They also have this Barbed Net for additional missile resistance and speed if somebody comes close. That does mean if you're using these Chariots danger close on a character, you can potentially negate their missile resistance stat, which can be quite nice. Somebody like Big Bird especially can give the Dark Elves problems potentially. But Spearman here fighting MALUS. We've also got the Sorceress Lore Beast fighting on some Free Company here. Going to summon up that second Manticore, try and drop down to get some terror. These Dark Riders, though, don't have shields, and I was mismicroing them for just a second. They took a ton of burst damage from these Empire infantry here, so we're going to charge through. But they're definitely pretty thin at this point. These Huntsmen should be able to hold the line here. Going to continue to fight in this pocket. Marcus still at the distance, not sure exactly where he's at right now. Probably going to be taking pot shots at the Medusa, I would imagine. It has taken some damage, but likewise I'm providing some counterfire here. Just rushing aggressively with these Chariots, using them both in melee and their missile attacks. These Scourge Runner Chariots, I think, for me at least, I mean, I'm partial to Chariots and Heavy Cavalry. Anyone who's watched my channel for a long time knows that, but yeah, this is definitely my favorite unit of the new DLC for the Dark Elves, is this Scourge Runner Chariot right here. Very, very strong stuff. That missile attack in particular has to be one of the strongest missile chariots in the game, and certainly kind of puts War Wagons to shame a little bit, sadly. Yeah, pretty good stuff. You can see here the Siren as well, the Siren of Red Ruin moving up. She's going to continue to provide terror kind of throughout the late game here as the Manticores wear off, but for the time being, Manticore's still here. We're able to continue aggressively kind of pushing off some various units here. These Lance Demigryphs I haven't been highlighting too much, but I have been fighting them quite a bit with MALUS. MALUS himself mostly just been running around providing his debuffs. Hasn't taken too much damage yet. If we go ahead and have a look in on his healing cap, you can see he's taken about, 600 points in damage. So pretty good stuff so far, but not too much. Marcus going to net him and maybe take some pot shots there, but actually choosing to withdraw. Still has quite a few ranged units in that contingent there, but you can see the isolated spearmen here just getting mopped up by dread spears, those chariots, the siren of the red ruins. So good stuff. We're going to continue rolling up. And yeah, the Hellblaster does manage to get back online here for just a moment, starts tearing apart some of my infantry there, but it hasn't used up most of its ammo, so the Scourge Runner Chariots is definitely a very nice counter, specifically to the Black Lions. The Black Lions do have longer range, but of course, you can only take one of these guys. You can take multiples of the Scourge Runner Chariots, and the Scourge Runner Chariots, much better actual chariots, and much cheaper as well. I think you could take, what, like 2 for 1 in terms of the price, for the basic chariots at least, so pretty good stuff. Malus comes through here. He's going to get in, get some good damage on these casters. He doesn't have a shield, which I think is a little bit silly. He's also not wearing a helmet, which is just ridiculous. But, oh man, that Medusa up on the hill. That's a great shot right there. Malus himself is a pretty good combatant. He has decent stats. The 60-60 melee attack and defense is just good all around. 450 total weapon strength with 315 AP rather, is good stuff. 110 armor. The 65 charm bonus is all decent, but certainly his strength comes from being able to transform into Sar Ken in a late game situation. Sar Ken himself is quite powerful, but we're going to try and get Malus in here on Marcus. We get that Demon's Curse for the negative melee defense and everything. Marcus down to 21. He's still not going to take too much damage though, since he is just a foot character, and some of the attacks will end up missing from Malus. So a little bit rough there, but we were able to get some good terror routes kind of across the field here. Free Company Militia and those Empire Knights and Huntsmen and everything getting terrified away there. And the Sorceress Lore Beast providing some nice melee damage as well. In the late game here, she can throw out some Flocks of Doom and continue to regenerate extra magic with that sweet Wild Heart. Probably one of the best lore attributes in the game, to be honest. But yeah, the Scourge Runner Chariots as well have taken some damage, but all three of them all still have their models online. So 3 times 3, 9 unit models, right? Pretty good stuff. And yeah, here Marcus and Malus. Yeah, the saga of these two is a saga of nets and shots. A pretty good shot there, and of course the lack of missile block chance on Malus is going to be a little bit of an issue here. Then again, I can continue to regenerate in melee and transform into Sar Ken in the late game, so yeah, we're going to fast forward a little bit as this replay does go on for some amount of time here. You can see I'm able to clean up some chariots here, bring in the blood rack to get things going, but now let's have a look at Sar Ken. Now that he's summoned here, he's going to be going after Marcus. So Sar Ken picks up quite a bit more melee attack and weapon strength. He's unbreakable, of course. He also has a couple of extra abilities here. He gets Bloodstorm, which does not affect friendly troops. It's an explosion, and also gives himself 22% damage resistance, which is quite nice. 60 cooldown as well, pretty low. Reaper of Souls is an AoE. It's more or less like Soul Stealer. It's not quite exactly Soul Stealer, but it is pretty similar. And then, of course, he does not retain the sword of what's it called, unfortunately, so he's not going to be able to regenerate, but still, not too bad. He'll be able to continue fighting in his final form here, and it does kind of give him a secondary health pool, so that in and of itself is pretty powerful. It basically says more or less that Malus doubles his health pool. I mean, granted, he does have abilities that damage himself and regeneration, so there is kind of a bit of give and take there, depending on when you use his abilities and everything. But you can see Marcus in the late game here, keeping some of his abilities in the pocket, able to do a ton of damage to Malus, and that is one of his main downsides, is just as just a Horse Lord, kind of like Rapunce, he does have a low HP pool in general. The fact that he has that secondary HP pool with Sar Ken is quite powerful, don't get me wrong. But yeah, you can see the Chariots over here. I was thinking about charging the Black Lions just to get some bumper cars, but I figure instead let's get the Medusa here to use her missile attack. So let's watch up close as the Medusa does her attack animation. The Black Lions, the one of them that's left, unleashing some shots here, but ooh, a clean miss there from Marcus, and that last one does shatter that Black Lion there. So yeah, you saw how fast that missile moves. That's what I'm talking about in terms of it being hard to dodge. Some missiles in the game move relatively slowly, like Marcus's bow is pretty kind of in the mid-range, but other missiles you can dodge relatively easily. But the Medusa's missile attack, because it moves so fast, that is one benefit of it as well. So we're going to have a little bit of a shootout here between Marcus and the Medusa. Her breath attack versus his bow attack. And he's obviously a much smaller target than the Medusa, but she's got a lot more damage, I think. No, actually, probably pretty similar damage profiles. Yeah, 450, 490, 459 rather. I think Marcus has a little bit slower refire rate, if I remember right, but he does actually get clocked right there, and he doesn't have a whole lot of HP left. Leadership not looking great, so it's not going to take a lot, and oh, just gets slapped right there. Sent for a little ride by that little magic missile. It's going to be too much for poor Marcus. Ooh, and he actually gets felled right there, just absolutely deleted by the Siren of the Red Ruins. So for those of you guys who have been sniped by Marcus at any point in history, that is for you. Just getting counter-sniped by an actual monster there. The hunter became the hunted, if you will. We also had kind of a Chariot artillery battle, which is relatively unique here, but it is going to take some time just because everything's so scattered for us to hit army losses with the Empire. So we're going to fast forward until everything gets terrified there, but very fun stuff. Well played to HDS. A super fun battle at the end of the day. Pretty wild back and forth. And yeah, Sar Ken plus MALUS was able to do some pretty good work. Just kind of helping mop up a lot of that chaff infantry, helping to support against the cav engagements. Did take down some of those Demigryph Knights as well. And of course do a ton of damage to these various characters. Really though, the MVPs absolutely were the Scourge Runner Chariots. Each of the basic ones got an XP chevron. All of them got 70 plus kills. 134 as well for the Siren of the Red Ruin. Need to play around with the Medusa some more. They've also got a Chariot variant we're going to take a look at in just a moment. But definitely need some more experimentation, but certainly did quite well in this particular battle. So looking forward to trying that out more. Dark Elves certainly have a bevy of monsters to choose from at this point. Between Hydras, Dragons, you know, you've got your Manticores even if you want something cheap. The Bloodrack Medusas are also going to be good options as well. So let's go ahead. I've got a couple more battles to show you guys. We're going to jump straight into it. And yeah, let's go. And here we are going to be taking on Reponse and Bretonnia. Let's get right into it. We've got quite the cav and chariot force here with 3 units of Dark Riders with shields, a couple Cold One Knights led by MALUS Darkblade, the 2 Scourge Runner chariots here, the ROR Scourge Runner and a Cold One chariot, just because I wanted the AP melee damage from these guys in particular for this battle. We've also got the Blood Rack Medusa on a shrine here. So the shrine provides a couple of AoE buffs and debuffs here. We've got the Aura of Ardor, which provides +7 melee attack and leadership to nearby units, and provides -7 melee defense and -4 leadership to enemy units in that area of effect. So pretty good stuff. Lore of Deathcaster, some spears scattered around. Reponse leading the way. She's got Henry Le Massif on horseback. And Knights Lionhearted here, Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, and you can see how those Scourge Runner chariots actually one-shot the cavalry models. That is very important, because Bretonnia and a number of other factions, of course, can't heal their cavalry models. The fact that you can one-shot models with those Scourge Runner chariots is very important. We're going to get a massive kind of pitched engagement here, just going straight in. Knights of the Lionhearted, various other units, and of course the Bloodrack Shrine being in here is going to help counteract Reponce's buffs, more or less just 1-for-1. Some healing being used, but likewise we're going to get in here and start to pop MALUS's debuffs as well. You can see Blood Price being popped there. And we're going to pop that additional debuff. There it is, that Demon's Curse, just debuffing the Knights. Melee defense all across the board here. You can see the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis get just slapped there. The Blood Rack Shrine, though, is taking a lot of damage from those peasants. A lot of really good focus fire there, so the Dark Riders, I'm going to have to kind of pull back, try and get a better engagement to wrap up a lot of these routing units, because I don't want to necessarily get over-invested here. Likewise, MALUS is kind of taking a beating a little bit here from Reponse, so we're going to zoom in close for the duel here, and oh man, that peasant went for a ride there. Definitely deserved it, but yeah. MALUS versus Reponse straight up. It's hard to say exactly who would win, but certainly with Sar Ken in the picture, MALUS should be able to take this. That being said, Henri being in this pocket, of course, all these Grail Knights supporting as well. Heavy presence there, just doing all they can to support. But you can see I'm trying to do everything I can to shut down these archers. Keep that Blood Rack Shrine online. We're going to throw it over there in that melee engagement to try and get a terror out in these Dark Riders. Again, Dark Riders, pretty good charge bonus. We're going to use them in this kind of mobility phase to try and mop up a lot of these light units for Bretonnia. The Chariots as well being used in that aspect also. Nice Doom and Darkness here. I meant to overcast that, but it didn't really end up mattering. Yeah, probably should have just saved my Winds of Magic, to be honest, but it's all good. Blood Rack Shrine also getting in some good damage here. And yeah, starting to rack up some anti-infantry kills. Hasn't quite got an XP Chevron yet, but pretty good stuff. Likewise, we just summoned up Malus here, got his stuff going, so you can see that Reaper of Souls doing a ton of damage to those Grail Knights, these various other units here, and suddenly the tables have been turned. Rapunz is in very big danger, and oh man, Sar Ken is here. Possessed Malus, trying to path through as best he can and get a hit in, but there he goes. Finally gets a couple of attacks there to fell a couple of those Knights, and he is absolutely just juiced up right now. That 96 melee attack in particular, of course, with Murderous Prowess popping off, is quite the good time to pop that damage spike and bring in Sar Ken. So we're going to continue to kind of roll around with these Chariots, use their missile attack, try and use them in melee potentially as well to get some armor-piercing damage in, certainly for the Cold One Chariots, more so than the Scourge Runner Chariots, but the Blood Rack Shrine still online as well. She's able to get some missile attacks in here. And going to try and fire into this blob. It looks like I actually just picked off a model there kind of towards the periphery. The Blood Rack Shrine is decent at shooting at cavalry. I do need to kind of test around and see. It seems like it's probably going to be better at shooting at characters, or I don't know, maybe into infantry blobs, but it doesn't have the biggest explosion in the world. Like, it's pretty decent, but unfortunately it does get charged here and is probably going to get taken out, and Henri Le Massif is going to be left to duel Sar Ken here with just a few routing boys here. Those Foot Squires not going to stick around for long. And Malus with Sar Ken at the helm, obviously. Mostly just getting attacks with the Cold One, to be honest. But, yeah, it looks like Sar Ken himself not really taking too many swings. But Henri is just getting absolutely wrecked here. Another Reaper of Souls coming in. Looks like it's doing some pretty decent damage on Henri. I don't know. I can't exactly math out those ticks right now. But meanwhile, my Sorceress is getting caught up by Rapunz, which is not great. Rapunz has been able to pull away and heal up because I wasn't able to snipe out that healer, that Damsel Lore of Life, very critically. But we do still have some shots here. We're going to use some of the shots from the Scourge Runner Chariot and the last shots of the Cold One Chariot as well to try and do whatever damage we can to Rapunz in the late game here. She's pretty close to her healing cap, so just use these Dark Riders, try and stay mobile and clean up these routing units as much as we can. There are still quite a few various units of Knights, but again, that 40 charge bonus is what I'm trying to take advantage of here on those Dark Riders. Just keep them moving as much as possible. Same thing with these Chariots. Even though they are just Chariots, they can still come in here, get a rear charge. There's Sar Ken as well getting in here. He's going to try and find Rapunz. Does manage to pin her up against the Chariot and get a few pretty good attacks in here. Will he be able to actually finish her off? Looks like actually no, he gets distracted by the defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis here, and likewise these Grail Knights also countercharge back in to screen things out, and it looks like Malus actually going to be going down to the Grail Knights. So Sar Ken, the foul one, falls to the ladies chosen there, and Rapunz is able to survive that encounter for the time being. It's definitely not over yet. We still got these Chariots here and some various other units to try and clean up in the late game, but it's definitely going to be hard to take down Henri and Rapunz certainly without Malus and Sar Ken. It's hard not to name them not as a pair, right? Because you really do get them as a pair, whether you like it or not. But certainly it can be good. I don't know that he's necessarily going to be very competitive. I think you're still most likely going to see, at least in tournament play, almost always Malekith or Marathi. I actually think the Beastmaster, I haven't showed him at all today. I'm going to be doing a multicast specifically about the Beastmaster in particular, because I think he's a really strong option for the price, potentially a very good add for monster-focused builds especially. But I do think that Malus is cool. His mechanic is unique, certainly, and it's fun. It can be powerful. It's just, I don't know that it's that great. It's maybe not amazing. But, yeah, at this point, Rapunz comes in here, does some good damage to those Dark Riders. I really only have the Chariots and the balance of power pretty heavily in HDS's favor, so he is going to come in here, clean up with Rapunz, start to take down some of those foul Scourge Runner Chariots. So, I couldn't do an early access in this particular time period without showing off a Bretonnia win, right? Because, of course, if you guys didn't know, I am pretty biased towards Empire and Bretonnia. Now you know. Honestly, not the biggest fan of Dark Elves, but I do like Chariots. My inner Sirtha Ek approves of the new Chariots, absolutely. And especially the Blood Rack Shrine. I mean, that's just a big single entity kind of not quite artillery chariot. It's more of like a mid-range type artillery chariot. It doesn't really have super long range, but yeah, that Sorceress going to try and fight a little bit longer, but there's not a whole lot she can do left. So that's going to be it Very well played HDS once again. Yeah, the Blood Rack Shrine again, 110 kills, did some great work against a bunch of the knights and provided some nice terror there. I did kind of ham-fist it a little bit, and it is somewhat vulnerable to missile damage. That's kind of its main weakness. Against factions with good AP missiles and consistent AP missile damage, it's going to be pretty hard to use. You know, people like Skaven, Coast, potentially Empire as well, although you can kind of get away with some things in those matchups, potentially, if you kind of build your build around it. But certainly, the Scourge Rider Chariot, the Cold One Chariot, I think is even maybe a little bit more cost inefficient, although having the AP melee damage in some situations is going to be quite helpful. But Dark Rider's racking up a ton of kills, chasing routing units. When you're in an outnumbered situation like this, you definitely need to take advantage of those breaks and get those situations, but still just not quite able to capitalize and finish off HDS's leadership there. At the end of the day, just super tanky, these three. Not quite able to, not quite able to be felled, or surviving quite well, I should say, against the demons there. So we've got one more battle to get to. Sit tight. We're going to be going into Arkells versus Warriors of Chaos, so let's get to it. This time, Malus is coming at you on foot here, and oh man, look at that gaze. He definitely is possessed. Ugh, get away from me, bud. We've got these Blackguard of Naggarond here, Black Ark Corsairs, Blood Rack Shrine. We've got the Regiment of Renowned Harpies as well, the Crows of Cain, bright red, glowing, just dripping in weird effects. They've got this regeneration effect here, the Crow Feast, so they'll regenerate in melee, Feral Manticore, and yeah, we've also got some Sisters of Slaughter here, a Death Hag on foot. So my idea here is to kind of stack some area of effect buffs and debuffs with some different things. We've got the Chill Blade from the Death Hag. You could also take her up on her Chariot to get physical resistance as well, but decided not to for today. Then, of course, Malus has his thing. The Blood Rack Shrine has its thing. We've got Dark Riders with shields for some support. And then, yeah, just some mid-tier infantry here, some Black Ark Corsairs to help trade upward with those debuffs. The Sorceress Lore of Death has an armor debuff as well, that Soul Blight, to help the lack of AP on the Corsairs do a little bit better, and Spirit Leech as well, just to kind of pick away at various models. My opponent here, led by Sigvald the Magnificent, has got a whole mess of warriors, including the Mirror Guards, some warriors with great weapons, Marauders, a few Marauder Horsemen as well, and some Chaos Knights in some various points. Chaos Sorcerer Lore of Death also. So the Blood Rack going to get started. I was using its missile attack here against infantry. You can see it doesn't do a whole lot. It actually only picks off like 1 or 2 models at a time there, so not the best to use against infantry, but it's okay. These Dark Riders, I'm going to try and bait these Chaos Knights into an unfavorable engagement here. You can see I'm maneuvering my flying units over to the side, but yeah, we're going to get the melee blob engagement underway here. I'm over-blobbing a little bit at this point just to go after these Marauders, but the Mirror Guard also get in here. Looks like the Sisters of Slaughter kind of countercharge into the side of them, and there's the debuff. We can see the Soul Blight plus the Demon's Curse, just all the debuffs, Standard Eye being popped to help counter that a little bit there, which is quite nice. But meanwhile over here, these Chaos Knights getting Spirit Leeched, and the Blood Rack Shrine plus the Crows of Cain, the Karens of Cain here, dropping down from the sky, along with the Manticore, just going to demand refunds from all of these Chaos Knights, speak to the manager, but unfortunately Arkells is actually not here. He took a vacation day, and Sigvald is just an assistant, so he doesn't really have the authority to honor their coupons, and it's just going to be an absolute disaster, as you can imagine. Anyway, the Dread Spears here fighting a pitched engagement up against the rock, kind of holding the flank there. I'm going to detach some units to try and engage these Chaos Knights with lances in the back, eating the charge in the face with the Black Ark Corsairs. Maybe not the best, but we're going to follow up with the Dread Spears, and again, these stacking debuffs here, if we check in, these Chaos Knights with lances on their stats, only 37 attack and 27 defense, with 37 weapon strength. Again, the poison as well from these various effects here. It's just so powerful getting these stacking kind of debuffs. And you could already kind of do this with Morathi. I think even Morathi on foot with a build like this is going to be potentially more devastating than with Sar Ken here, but the fact that Sar Ken does give you that kind of double HP pool for a Footlord plus regeneration is nice in and of itself, and he does have his own debuffs to kind of carry around, but the terror from the Manticore and the Blood Rack proving too much for the Warriors of Chaos in this back pocket. On this front line, though, you can see the Corsairs, they're still fighting. They've traded pretty cost-effectively for the most part, but yeah, this unit especially, I guess not. Only 16 kills at this point, but let's see, 23 kills? It's pretty okay, I guess, at the end of the day. 12 kills here, maybe not that good, I guess, but still, it makes me feel good. The Crows of Cain, at least, can get in here, 42 kills on the Bloodrack Shrine, so not too bad. Sisters of Slaughter still fighting. They're going to start to rack up some kills with that, that Murderous Mastery active. And here comes, in the front line, the battle between Sar Ken and, I haven't even been showing, but MALUS had his whole saga here fighting Sigvald in the front line, transformed into Sar Ken, and now just beating his chest here, just so angry, ready to just destroy that Chaos Sorcerer Lore of Death, which he absolutely did. And yeah, let's have a look at him on foot. I feel like his animations are different. He certainly looks like he's kind of crazed right now, but oh man, there's a good shot. Charging in on foot with the Bloodrack Shrine for a nice rear charge on those Chaos Warriors. Certainly will proc a terror route there, and I'm going to try and single out Sigvald if I can here with Sar Ken, but a little bit tough to get to him. Going to have to kind of path through some of my own units there. Where's Sigvald? He's getting buried under that Chariot somewhere. A couple of these Sisters of Slaughter and other units able to get some attacks in, but here comes Sar Ken. He actually gets a charge animation in, and will he get an attack? No, they're just kind of doing Slanesh things at this point, but I guess he got one attack there. That's not too bad. The Marauder Horsemen are going to countercharge back in here, try and screen out a little bit, but you can see the Bloodrack Shrine still quite healthy, and I do have some missile attacks left. The Pharaoh Manticore and the Crows of Cain, the Karens, fighting the Chaos Knights with lances there. I'm never going to give that up, guys, and that was purely on the spot, too. Like, I promise, I didn't think about that beforehand, but anyway, it's just, I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. Yeah, these Marauder Horsemen, they'll hold up okay in here, but they are pretty light units, and, I mean, Sar Ken being in melee means that he'll regenerate, so, I mean, the fact that, I guess, you would think, I keep thinking that, because in campaign, I want to say that he does have that, that effect if he transforms. I'm pretty sure, maybe he loses that, I could be completely wrong, but I was like 99% sure he still regenerated, but regardless, still quite a powerful foot character, and gonna do some good damage. You can see the bounce power pretty well in my favor at this point, but yeah, the Death Hag's still fighting here as well. She had taken some big damage early from Sigvald, but kind of able to pull things back together, and those stacking debuffs just providing a lot. 93 kills on the Bloodrack as well, just about to catch that last XP chevron. 51 for the Pharaoh Manticore, the Crows of Cain. The extra leadership and the regeneration just helps so much in keeping those Harpies in until the late game. And yeah, Blackguard, of course, as well. 86 kills, just about got an XP chevron themselves, so I quite like this kind of stacking debuff auras. Again, I think probably with Morathi it's going to be potentially even more powerful than with MALUS. Morathi does have her own self-healing, but she doesn't have a second health pool. And she's not as heavily armored. You know, there's kind of some trade-offs there, certainly. But she does give you your Lord and Caster in one for potentially probably about the same cost, I want to say. So you could take like 1 or 2 more units of infantry potentially, or even like a unit or 2 of cavalry, or one of those excellent Scourge Runner chariots to give you some kind of mobility here. Some extra mobility, I should say. But yeah, fun stuff. Very well played to HDS. This is going to wrap up the final battle as Sigvald just gets run over by the Chariot here. The Sisters of Slaughter getting in. The Karens demanding refunds. Sigvald, unfortunately. Yeah, I guess if the ROR Harpies are the Karens, the Crows of Cains are the Karens, then the Bloodrack Medusa is the Queen of Karens, right? Oh yeah. Super cool. I do like the new units quite a bit for the Dark Elves. MALUS, I haven't read the books, so granted, I'm a little bit biased in that way. I'm not super attached to him as a character. He's okay. He's fun. But certainly I'm enjoying the new units quite a bit. The Bloodrack Shrine and the Chariots. I'm going to be showing you guys the Beast Lord as well in some upcoming replays. But yeah, very fun stuff. Well played to HDS once again. And how about those new character portraits, huh? Sigvald looking ever so magnificent there. But yeah, MALUS, 76 kills on him. Yeah, 104 there, 58, 95. Chevrons to go around. The Corsairs did okay at the end of the day. Ended up trading more or less cost effectively. Sisters of Slaughter, I think, even less so. But maybe it would have been beneficial to just go a little bit wider. But Sisters of Slaughter, just that poison effect especially, quite powerful here. For HDS, obviously, the Chaos Warriors did manage to get some good charges in, but just kind of getting dragged down there by those stacking debuffs. And the Chaos Warriors did get some good damage on the Corsairs and the Blackguard, but not quite enough at the end of the day. So, very fun stuff. As it turns out, I had a little bit more time, so I wrangled turn for a couple more games, and speaking of wrangling, we're going to be taking a look at this guy here, the High Beastmaster for the Dark Elves. we have a look at his abilities, he's got a couple of mount options. Either can go on foot on the Scourge Runner Chariot, which, as we've seen, has an anti-large AP missile attack, same as the regular Chariot, just like a single model. He can also take a Manticore. His abilities here, he's got Tormentor Sword, obviously should know and love this item, a Hard Snare, AoE, minus 24 melee attack, quite strong. He's got this here, Beast Slaver, gives himself extra weapon and armor piercing, and bonus versus large. Featherfoe Torque afflicts flying units in an AoE, minus 15 armor and minus 9 melee defense as well. Brought that just in case of Pterodons. We've also got Stand Your Ground for the melee defense and leadership, and this is his main sort of unique ability here, is Whiplash. Gives extra charge bonus, speed, and 50% weapon and armor piercing damage. It is tailor-made for monsters, so naturally, we've gone with a very monster-focused build, all with the Bad Breath, 2 Regiment of Renowned monsters here, the Siren of the Red Ruin, Bloodrack Medusa, Chill of Sontar, of course, War Hydra, and how about a Black Dragon just to round out the Bad Breath squad. I've also got a Scourge Runner Chariot here, some Dread Spears, and a Beast Caster with Manticore Summon to maximize the menagerie. Yeah, for Turin's Lizardmen. Hanowin up in the air with Colossadon Hunters and a couple of Pterodon Riders. Got a Saurus Scarvet on a Carnosaur, some Skinks with Jabs, a couple of Chameleons, and Spear Riders as well. So taking a look here, I can sense that Turin wanted to engage, mostly because we were in chat together, but he wants to come in here with the Colossadons and Hanowin. So I'm going to take that fight just straight up with the Dragon. We are going to support ground fire from the 2 Chariot units and from the Siren here as well, and be able to get some good damage in that way. I am a little late on my debuffs, but throw a nice breath attack, chilly breath attack on those Chameleon Skinks, managed to down a number of unit models, and I am a little bit late on my Dragon on using that that lash there, unfortunately, so we're going to save that for later. Thankfully, just with this missile support, it was enough to actually take down Hanowin there. You can see double Manticore Summon on both sides. We do come in and pop that Tormentor Sword, I believe. Let's see here. Yep, there's the Tormentor Sword. It's freezing Hanowin in place, and it looks like I used the Lash actually on the Chill of Sontar, so it's able to get in here with a bunch of extra weapon damage, come in and do some good work on that Saurus Scarvet. And likewise, Hanowin getting absolutely wrecked in the air by the Manticore and the Black Dragon, so a very nice initial engagement for me. Likewise, the Siren of the Red Ruin getting in here, getting some attacks in, and the consistent missile damage, of course, from those Chariots, providing some nice overwatch as well. The Spears are just kind of holding around, holding those Cold One Spear Riders back, not really wanting to engage them on Saurus. There's no reason to rush in there and just get killed, so just kind of hanging back for the time being. The thing about the Saurus is once it disengages here, you can see I'm going to open up with the Bloodrack's ranged attack and just continue spitting there. A little bit of a narrow miss, but you can use the breath attacks from the Dragon as well, although it is getting pretty low at this point. Has generated a ton of value already, taking down 2 very high value flying units, but now it's just going to probably get worn down by Javelins. But Chill comes forward. We do get these Spears engaging also, just kind of wearing through these different troops here. And those Colossadon Hunters, or the Pterodon Riders, rather not doing too hot. We're going to get one more Manticore Summon from the Beastcaster here. Turin's Manticore Summon drop down on some Dark Riders. That's fine with me. These Saurus did end up engaging here, which is, again, fine with me. We'll just kind of let them wear themselves away. But this Black Dragon not doing too hot, so unfortunately one of the zoo animals has been lost, but the others should be doing fine here. You can see the Saurus Scarvet comes in for another engagement, and unfortunately the Sorceress gets terrified away there, but Manticore plus Bloodrack plus Hydra, this is what the Beastmaster is all about here, guys. Just heavy in on the Beast. You can see the Skink Javelins coming in, getting some good work done, but yeah, the Beastmaster providing some nice support as well. Looks like we've got Tormentor Sword once more, freezing everyone in place, allowing that Scarvet to actually just get taken down there by the Manticore, so the Dark Elf Zoo squad definitely doing quite well. You can see here it looks like another effect. That's going to be the Whale of Malice. And it doesn't last too long, but does some damage in an AoE from that Siren. These non-AP jabs, though, and the Chameleon Skinks providing a lot of Overwatch fire. You can see Siren of Red Ruin and Chill of Sontar getting relatively low in terms of their HP, but we're just so far ahead on the balance of power in terms of this point, and in terms of value, you know, having taken out all the high-value flying units, there's really just some infantry here still holding, and like these Pterodon Riders and everything else, starting to even run a little bit low on ammo, so it's just a lot to deal with at this point. Dark Riders come through, start punching some of these jabs, and it is quickly going to lead to a victory. So very fun stuff. I think builds like this with the Beastmaster are going to be quite strong. Just taking, you know, 3 monsters, especially 3 different types of monsters, going to be definitely a lot of fun for certain types of players. This isn't necessarily my favorite playstyle personally, but I can definitely see the appeal. Chill of Sontar ended up getting 62 kills there. Did manage to take good advantage of their breath attacks. Same can't be said of the Dragon, although it did a lot of melee work again against Tehenwyn. And how about that new portrait for Tehenwyn, huh? And yeah, Clawstone Hunter is just getting absolutely wrecked there. So interesting stuff. The missile fire support, of course, from the Scourge Runners and the Medusa, also pretty key in that engagement there. And yeah, just being able to go hybrid missile melee against these monsters and infantry ended up proving pretty decent here. So we're going to jump into one more battle featuring the Beastmaster. And yeah, let's just get straight to it. Alright, this time the Master has a beast of his own, riding a Manticore here up against the Greenskins in the cold north. So yeah, we've got him on a Manticore, another Manticore, and going with a bit more of a cold one focused build. Of course, that Lash can be used on any unit that is not a Lord or Hero, so certainly Cold One Knights with their high weapon strength and everything else could potentially qualify for a pretty good candidate there. We've also got the ROR Harpies, some Dark Riders, some Witch Elves, and Dread Spears in the front line, a couple of Scourge Runners as well, and of course, more Manticores. As for Turin's Greenskins here, got a couple Black Orcs, a couple of Biggins, lots of bows as well, pretty solid stuff. Just a generally well-balanced Greenskins build all around, led by Wurzag, got a Doom Diver, a couple Spider Riders. Yeah, just super solid stuff all around. We're going to force an engagement right off the bat here, though, with some of these fast movers. Dark Riders, Harpies, Manticore getting in here, just shutting down a Spider Rider right off the bat. 500 points for free. That's free real estate. Meanwhile, over here, we're going to get a pretty good engagement. We get these Dark Riders charging in, or sorry, the Cold One Knights charging in with that Lash buff active. You can see up to 62 weapon strength, just punching super hard against these Black Orcs here. Likewise, the Beastmaster himself dives down, also drops the melee defense buff. So yeah, pretty good value out on that flank. We're able to kind of get a good break here as the Harpies and other units start to pull away. Unfortunately, that Manticore, though, did get smoke bombed, could potentially get enraged and kind of bogged down in that pocket, but some Spider Riders coming in the back line. I mean, they get shot up on the way in, and they just don't have the AP to get through the 80 armor of those Scourge Runner Chariots, so going to be an advantageous situation for me. We've also got a Manticore summon here. Going to roll that up in the back line, potentially try and terrify away some of Turin's units here, but being Greenskins, they are relatively squishy, and my Beastmaster here, we've used one Tormentor Sword, so it's currently on cooldown, but if I can snipe Wurzag, that's going to be great. He, of course, does have bonus versus large up on his Manticore of 25, so that low armor Wurzag especially going to be relatively squishy there, but FG to get, going to freeze me in place. I'm going to have to just kind of chill there for a minute, eat a bunch of bows to the face. Meanwhile, the Crows of Cain, the Karens of Cain, as I've decided to call them, I've gotten in the back line here and have been at least bogging down a lot of these units. The Doom Diver has still been firing, but at the very least we're kind of sitting here and keeping these units occupied, able to kind of roll up some of these other flanks here. You can see the Biggins did end up defeating the Witch Elves with the support of those Doom Divers, but thankfully for me, this Manticore comes back from route. Feral Manticore is here helping clean up some Black Orcs, and the two Chariots also still very healthy at this point as well. So we're going to dive in here with the High Beastmaster, and while this may seem extremely risky given the lack of support in the current vicinity, I do have my abilities coming off cooldown very shortly, so the Beastmaster are going to start to take some hits, but you can see I quickly pop that Stand Your Ground. We've got one Manticore summon in, another one just popped, Magic also. Get some rear charges from some various units here, and suddenly what initially seemed a very bad situation will quickly turn around. We're going to be able to get a huge terror out here. The Overwatch fire from the Scourge Runner Chariots also providing some good DPS. And yeah, the terror proving to be too much, rather, and these units kind of all routing away. So a nice missile attack from Wurzag there, just about does what, maybe half the remaining HP of that Beastmaster there. Pretty good stuff. Summon Manticore fighting Savage Orc Airboys will actually take quite a bit of damage due to their high weapon strength and attack, but I mean, we need to at least keep them from firing for the time being, right? Witch Elves fighting tooth and nail against some Biggins there. That'll be a pretty even trade as well. And just in general, getting some pretty good breaks. This kind of break of all these missile units here especially that I can then come in, clean up with the Chariots. These Dark Riders as well did manage to stay on the battlefield, going to be pretty key in chasing some routing units in the late game. But here we go. Wurzag gets dropped on by some Manticores, and it is not looking good for him. We've got a couple of slow Cold One Knights barely trying to make their way to get on top of him there, but Wurzag versus 3 Manticores currently in the air. One of them is just about to be disintegrated, I would imagine, but he's going to go ahead and throw, looks like Fists of Gork there on those Biggins, so they can get in here and beat the brakes off of these large units. The one with the high HP is the summoned one, keep in mind, so this will be gone relatively soon. And the one with low HP, of course, is just going to run away, right? So as soon as those two Manticores go away, you can see the balance power does equalize somewhat, but Wurzag is just so low at this point. He's going to try and get a magic missile, does land it right in the face, but here comes the Beastmaster, spear in hand, whip in the other, able to rout Wurzag away, and only 91 leadership remaining. It's very unlikely he's coming back from rout at this point. I do manage to catch a Tormentor Sword here, freeze those rusty arrows in place so I can get on top of them, not allow them to continue firing and sundering armor and so on. Nice Flock of Doom to drain those Black Orcs, and Chariot's out of ammo at this point. The force is kind of scattered on the periphery. I can start to gather up and charge these Orcs out in the late game. So very fun stuff. Well played to turn. I've got one more battle to show you guys. And just correct a quick misconception I had earlier about MALUS. I may or may not have thought that he doesn't degenerate, but he actually does. Anyway, talk about that in a second. The real story in this late game is these Chariots. We can, of course, throw the Lash on them as well. The Whiplash, juicing up their speed and charge bonus, weapon damage and everything. Not the best, but I mean, it's something in the late game. It's something I can use it on that will generate pretty good value. The fact that the Beastmaster's still alive with just 550 HP, give or take, quite impressive at the end of the day, so yeah, just a matter of time before these lads kick the can, so we'll keep it in close with these Scourge Runner Chariots. I do like these units quite a bit. I'm a fan of kind of the lighter Chariots, like the Tyrannox, the Gobble Wolf Rider Chariots, the regular Chaos Chariots, if you will. And this definitely falls into that classification. It has to be one of the best missile Chariots, too, in terms of the missile damage. Like, it's a properly hybrid utility. And that does make it one of the best Chariot units in the game right off the bat, in my opinion. Kind of a strong hot take there, but anyway, fun stuff. Well played to turn. In terms of the breakdown there, the Beastmaster providing some key kind of buffs and debuffs. Snares there, sniping out Wurzag himself. Just excellent work in this battle. Witch Elves kind of got crumped on a little bit, but just having them there for the extra anti-infantry is helpful. Likewise, the Karens of Cain, helping to bog down the backline, and the Feral Manticore as well, providing that terror. 2 extra Feral Manticores from the Sorceress, very key. Yeah, those Chariots, absolute MVPs once again. For Turin's side, just kind of getting his mobility run over was a little bit rough there. The Black Orcs did take some pretty good engagements initially, or I guess one of them wasn't so good, one of them was pretty good, but yeah, the Savage Orc Air Boys ended up doing okay, but just maybe didn't quite pay for themselves. Skulkers did manage to get some good smoke bombs, but it wasn't quite enough at the end of the day. So yeah, I've got one more battle to get to for MALUS, but let's just quickly talk about the Beastmaster a little bit. So I think this guy is quickly going to become my favorite generic lord for the Dark Elves. I think MALUS is competitive, but you're probably going to see Malekith and Wrathy more often as legendary lords, but I really like the Beastmaster for his cost. With nothing on him, he's pretty cheap, only 750 baseline, so you can take him on a Manticore for 1500. And, I mean, most of his abilities are pretty good. I would take pretty much all of them. Unless you're not expecting flying units, then obviously don't take the Featherfoe Torque. But, yeah, you know, 2,000 to 2,100 points, give or take a little bit. Or if you want to cut some of these other abilities down, you can certainly make him a bit cheaper if you want to. You know, minus 250 on the Chariot also. Only 500 points for the Scourge Runner. Kind of gives him not the most missile attack in the world, especially for a Lord. But he can kind of poke and help provide a little bit of Overwatch fire there. So very good stuff for him. Will synergize well with pretty much all, you know, cavalry monsters. I even want to try him with, like, the Dread Knights potentially as well, especially the Regiment of Renown one. Could be some very good synergy there that we didn't get to today, but we'll have to take a look at that on another day. Let's get to one more replay here with my boy Turin. Alright, MALUS, so let's talk about you and Sar Ken. I might have been slightly wrong earlier in the cast when I said that he doesn't degenerate in Sar Ken's form. Seems that the damage is just not super consistent, like he either resists it, I'm not sure exactly, there's no active effect for me to look at, and it does require some more testing, but here Turin's going to be facing my Norska with MALUS. He's got some Cold One Knights here, spears scattered around, couple of Scourge Runner Chariots, some Dark Riders, Slaanesha's Harvesters as well, so a pretty decent wide build here. I've got some Marauder Horsemen, Norscan Ice Wolves, got a couple units of Famir, including the ROR, some Javs, Wolfric leading the way with a Shadow Famir, Champions, and regular Marauders. So, yeah, getting the engagement underway here. See, the Dark Elf Cav is going to push up on the flank here. I'm responding with the Famir, though, and also bringing Wolfric in almost immediately. Those Scourge Runner Chariots are going to do some pretty decent poke, you know, given enough time against these various units of Famir. So, not the best. Do throw down that boat there. It's a little bit of a misplay, but, oh, it just barely doesn't quite make full contact with that Dread Spear at the end of the day, but I was hoping to not frostbite my own guys, which mission not necessarily accomplished there, but Marauders rushing up into the second line here, out on the flanks. We get an okay engagement against these spears here with my hounds. We should be able to win this out eventually, but I don't really want to get bogged down there for too long. Nice Penumbral Pendulum on these Missile Cav, kills a few models, does some HP damage, and the Champ's also able to get in here. Marauder Champion's actually catching Dark Riders at this point, which is always interesting, but over on the far side, Word of Pain and other effects here. Looks like, yeah, just Word of Pain on those Famir, but they are being dragged down slowly by the Slaanesh Harvesters, these Cold One Knights and everything. Just not a great engagement for them, all isolated like this. I guess a little bit of Marauder support, but just not quite enough. These Javelins also getting hunted a little bit here by the Champions. Likewise, speaking of hunted, MALUS here trying to get in and get on Wulfric, but he actually able to screen him out there with those Champions. Wulfric pulls away, goes to do some armor-piercing damage against those Cold One Knights in the backline. Meanwhile, Marauder Horsemen trying to chase off those Dark Riders, and I do have the Hounds disengaged, but I'm going to promptly forget about them, which is going to be a little bit tough, but regardless, we've got some Javs firing in here. They should be able to get in here and get some hits on MALUS himself. It looks like he's going to throw in a very nice Penumbral Pendulum and generate some great value there against those Champions, and that will allow MALUS to escape. He takes a huge volley right to the face, though, of those Javelins, and yeah, with this kind of engagement here, I should be able to get a favorable situation, maybe, with Wulfric, especially on like a rear charge or something, but over here, these Famir, the Miststalkers, getting dragged down by the Slaanesh Harvesters, and I just haven't been able to catch those Scourge Runner Chariots. I wonder if these Hounds would have been maybe useful in trying to catch those Scourge Runner Chariots. But yeah, unfortunately the Miststalkers, I was hoping to use their magic damage against the Slaanesh Harvesters here. Didn't quite work out. We do get a couple of AoE effects to try and bust up this blob here, but unfortunately the Dark Elves are still able to get a rout. That being said, the center pocket's still doing decently for the time being, but MALUS took enough damage, decided to just go ahead and pop Sar Ken. So Sar Ken is now active and just confirmed he does not have his sword, but he is actually taking little ticks of damage here if we look. It's not very consistent. Like, he won't, it seems like sometimes he actually resists the ticks. Like, you'll see him go for quite a while without actually taking any damage, and then suddenly he'll take a little tick there. Like, you see how then he takes like a couple ticks in quick succession. And because there's no active effect sort of showing its cooldown here on the bottom, it's kind of hard to tell. But yes, he does in fact degenerate. So speaking of which, we're going to go ahead and hit him with that Hunter of Champions. Try and zoom in with these Hounds here as well. Maybe use Wulfric himself. Try and keep those Slaanesh Harvesters from supporting too well. But they still do get a good side charge in there. And with the low armor and melee defense of those Wolves and Hounds, they probably will get routed off. So what could have been a good situation for me, some timely support there from those Slaanesh Harvesters going to help out. Miststalkers did come back from route, and I do have the Famir online for the time being, but these Scourge Runner Chariots have generated excellent value shooting my Famir, and, you know, charging my infantry now in the late game here going to be very strong. Those Champions, I mean, they have good melee defense. They should keep fighting for quite a while, but Sar Ken, unfortunately, is just absolutely working over Wulfric at this point, so he's desperately trying to wheel away on his Chariot, but that angry Demon Elf boy is not too happy about his life decisions at this point, and is choosing to take his anger out on this poor Viking here, which is just not fair at all. You can see a bit of a swing and a miss there on that boat effect, but hey, Wulfric's pretty much dead anyway. Yep, in fact, he is dead, 100%, so that's going to more or less spell the end for me as we quickly start to move towards army losses here. Can't keep many of my units on the field, and we're getting chased off quite nicely by Scourge Runner Chariots and, yeah, Dark Riders and various other things there, so good battle to end things out. Well played to turn. And yeah, just wanted to quickly correct, because I don't know that I'm going to have time to re-record those battles necessarily, but I will be sort of splicing them all into one long video. So yeah, just to clarify, Sar Ken does degenerate on his Cold One. And I'm assuming he does on foot as well, but my mistake there on the earlier replay with Marcus. But yeah, still a very powerful character nonetheless. It still gives you more or less like a 2 times HP pool. And it's going to be a good option in a few different matchups. I don't know that he's necessarily going to be, like I said, the most competitive. I still think Malekith and Marathi will be slightly more competitive, but MALUS, I think, in certain situations, and certainly if you want to take him just for fun, there's nothing wrong with that. And he is pretty viable at the end of the day. Like, not competitive, but viable. And that's kind of the least we can ask for, right? So, Barbarians finally shattering, and you can see Sar Ken actually dies there at the end from no one touching him. So that's how we know he did in fact degenerate there, so a little bit of a confusion, but finally got things resolved. Big thanks to Turn once again for the games, and HDS of course as well. Thanks to you also for watching, so hopefully you enjoyed this Dark Elf shenanigans. Should be getting plenty more multiplayer replays to show you guys over the coming days. Planning on doing some campaign streams as well, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, not much else to say at this point. Thanks again. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, share it with your friends if you found it helpful, informative, funny, you know, whatever. I'm always happy when my videos get shared, regardless of the reason. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.